A grieving rancher living in complete isolation is captured by an all-women Apache tribe hidden in the mountains. The fierce warrior who took him prisoner becomes the unexpected key to unlocking his frozen heart. Sometimes we must lose our freedom to finally discover what it truly means to live. The sun hung low over the Arizona territory, painting the desert in shades of amber and crimson. Jacob Hollister wiped the sweat from his brow as he surveyed his modest ranch, a collection of weathered buildings that represented everything he had left in this world. 3 years had passed since the fever had taken his wife Sarah. 3 years of waking before dawn, working until his muscles screamed, and falling into an empty bed each night. The work kept him alive, but something inside him had grown cold and distant. At 34 years of age, Jacob had resigned himself to solitude. His nearest neighbor lived 20 miles east, and the town of Copper Springs sat a full day's ride north. He preferred it that way, or at least that was what he told himself during the long, silent evenings. That particular morning began like any other. He saddled his horse, a reliable mare named Sage, and rode out to check the fence line along the western boundary of his property. The territorial government had promised protection from raiding parties, but promises meant little out here where law existed only in theory. He never saw them coming. One moment he was examining a section of damaged fence, and the next, 3 riders appeared from behind a rocky outcropping. They moved with a fluidity that spoke of years spent in the saddle, their horses responding to commands invisible to his untrained eye. Jacob reached for his rifle, but a 4th rider emerged from his blind side, knocking the weapon from his grasp. Before he could react, strong hands pulled him from Sage and forced him to the ground. Looking up, he found himself staring into the faces of 4 women. Apache, judging by their dress and the distinctive patterns adorning their clothing. Each carried weapons with obvious expertise, and their expressions held no warmth. The tallest among them spoke rapidly, in a language Jacob did not understand. She gestured toward the mountains to the west, and 2 of the others bound his hands with leather straps that bit into his wrists. "Wait," he protested. "Whatever you think I've done, I mean you no harm." The tall woman silenced him with a sharp gesture. Her eyes, dark as obsidian, studied him with an intensity that made him feel exposed and vulnerable. She said something to her companions, and they lifted him onto one of their spare horses. They rode for hours, ascending into terrain Jacob had never explored. The landscape transformed from flat desert to rocky hills covered in juniper and pinyon pine. By the time they stopped, the sun had begun its descent toward the horizon. The camp they entered was unlike anything Jacob had expected. Perhaps 24 structures of varying sizes dotted a hidden valley, sheltered by steep cliffs on 3 sides. Women of all ages moved about their tasks, pausing only briefly to observe the prisoner their hunters had brought. What struck Jacob most forcefully was the complete absence of men. Young boys played near the creek that wound through the settlement, but every adult face belonged to a woman. They brought him before a structure, larger than the others, its entrance covered by an elaborately decorated hide. The tall woman who had captured him called out, and a moment later an elder emerged. She might have been 60 years of age, perhaps older, but her bearing suggested a strength that transcended physical prowess. Gray streaked her dark hair, which hung in 2 long braids over her shoulders. When she looked at Jacob, he felt as though she could read every thought in his mind. The elder spoke to his captor, who responded at length. Jacob caught occasional gestures in his direction, but the conversation remained incomprehensible. Finally, the elder approached him. "You are the rancher from the Eastern Valley," she said in English, her accent heavy but her words clear. Jacob blinked in surprise. "You speak my language. I speak many languages. The world is larger than most men imagine." She circled him slowly, her gaze assessing. "Why do you live alone?" The question caught him off guard. "My wife died. I have no other family." Something shifted in the elder's expression. "You worked the land that was ours before your people came. Your cattle drink from springs that sustained our ancestors. Apache said that land legally, Jacob began, but she raised her hand. I speak of history, not blame. The past cannot be unwound like thread from a spindle. She stopped before him. My name is Morning Star. You will remain here until we determine what purpose the spirits have designed for your arrival. Purpose? I was captured. There was no divine intervention. Morning Star smiled, though the expression held no warmth. You see what is before your eyes. We see what moves beneath the surface of things. They housed him in a small structure at the edge of the settlement, posting a guard outside. His bindings were removed, and a young woman brought him food and water. She was perhaps 20 years of age, with features that seemed somehow familiar, though he could not explain why. Thank you, he said as she set down the basket. She met his eyes briefly, and he saw curiosity there rather than hostility. You should eat. You will need strength for the work ahead. What work? But she departed without answering. Over the following days, Jacob learned the nature of this unusual community. The women called themselves the Daughters of the Mountain, a splinter group that had separated their tribe during a period of devastating losses. War and disease had claimed nearly all their men, and the survivors had chosen a path of isolation rather than absorption into other bands. They had created something remarkable in this hidden valley. Every woman contributed according to her abilities, whether hunting, crafting, farming, or healing. The young boys among them would eventually be given the choice to leave and find their way in the wider world, or remain as valued members of the community. Jacob found himself assigned to manual labor, tasks the women could accomplish themselves, but which freed them for other work. He repaired structures, hauled water, and tended the small herd of horses they kept. The guard who watched him was the tall woman who had led his capture. Her name was Sparrow Rising, and she spoke to him only when necessary. Weeks passed. The initial hostility of the community began to soften as Jacob proved himself willing to work without complaint. Children who had hidden from him now approached with questions about his strange way of living, alone in a house made of wood. The young woman who had first brought him food, whose name was Yellow Bird, of 10 lingered when she delivered his meals. Why do you seem sad, even when you are not working? She asked one evening as the sun disappeared behind the western cliffs. Jacob considered the question. I suppose I have forgotten how to be any other way. That is not an answer. He sighed. My wife died. Part of me died with her. I have been going through the motions of living without truly being alive. Yellow Bird sat across from him, her expression thoughtful. Morning Star says that grief is a river. If we do not cross it, we drown in its current. Perhaps I have been content to drown. No one is content to drown. They simply stop struggling because they cannot see the other shore. Their conversations became a regular occurrence. Yellow Bird possessed a sharp mind and a perspective on life that challenged Jacob's assumptions. She told him of her own losses, including a mother killed by soldiers when she was a child, and a brother who had wandered into the desert and never returned. How do you carry such weight without being crushed? He asked. I do not carry it alone. The community shares all burdens, whether of labor or of heart. She looked at him with something approaching tenderness. That is what you have lacked, rancher. Not a wife, but a people. No one should face the world in isolation. Jacob felt something stir within him, an ember he had believed extinguished. He had built his solitude like a fortress, believing it protected him from further pain. Now he began to wonder if it had simply become his prison. Morning Star summoned him after he had spent nearly 2 months in the valley. Her structure smelled of sage and something sweeter he could not identify. She sat across a small fire, her aged face illuminated by flickering light. You have changed, she observed. Have I? When you arrived, you were a shell walking in the shape of a man. Now something has begun to grow within that shell. She studied him through the smoke. Yellow bird speaks of you often. Jacob felt heat rise to his face. She has been kind. She has been more than kind. She has seen something in you that was invisible to others, perhaps invisible even to yourself. Morningstar leaned forward. What will you do when we release you? The question startled him. Release me? I assumed I would remain a prisoner indefinitely. You were never truly a priso. No. The bindings and the guards were necessary until we could understand your nature. Now we understand. She paused. You are free to leave whenever you choose. Jacob sat in silence, processing this revelation. He had spent weeks believing himself captive, only to learn that the bars of his cage had been unlocked all along. What if I choose to stay? He heard himself ask. Morningstar's expression remained unreadable. That would depend on many factors. Our community does not easily accept outsiders, particularly men. You would have to prove your value beyond simple labor. How would I do that? That is not for me to answer. Search within yourself, rancher. The path will reveal itself if you look with honest eyes. That night, Jacob could not find rest. He walked to the creek that wound through the settlement, its waters silver beneath the stars. He had come to this place against his will, yet something about it felt more like home than his empty ranch ever had. Footsteps approached, and Yellow Bird appeared beside him. You spoke with Morningstar. She told me I am free to leave, and will you? Jacob turned to face her. In the starlight, her features held a beauty that went beyond physical appearance. She possessed a strength of spirit, a quiet wisdom that drew him like a moth to flame. I have spent 3 years hiding from life, he said slowly. I told myself I was grieving, but the truth is that I was afraid of feeling, of connecting, of losing again. Fear is natural. Only fools know no fear, but fear should not be the foundation upon which we build our lives. He took a breath. When I look at you, I feel something I believe dead within me. When I think of leaving this place, returning to that lonely ranch, I feel nothing but emptiness. Yellow Bird stepped closer. What are you saying, rancher? I am saying that if you will have me, if your people will accept me, I would like to stay. Not as a prisoner, not as a laborer, but as a man who wishes to build a new life among people who have reminded him what it means to truly live. She reached up and touched his face, her fingers warm against his skin. You understand that our ways are not your ways. You would have to learn, to adapt, to accept practices that your people might consider strange. I have learned more in these past weeks than in all my years as a rank. I am willing to continue learning. Yellow Bird smiled, and it was like watching the sun emerge from behind clouds. Then we shall speak to Morningstar together. But know this, Jacob Hollister, if you stay forever. We do not offer our hearts only to have them returned when the path grows difficult. I understand, do you? Love among my people is not a feeling that comes and goes with the seasons. It is a commitment as binding as blood, as permanent as the mountains that shelter us. Jacob took her hands in his. My wife taught me what love means. Her death taught me what happens when we refuse to move forward. I do not offer you a heart that has never known pain. I offer you a heart that has been broken and healed, a heart that knows the value of connection because it has known the agony of loss. They stood together beneath the stars, two wounded souls finding in each other the possibility of wholeness. The desert wind whispered through the valley, carrying with it the scent of sage and the promise of renewal. When morning came, they went before Morningstar together. The elder listened as Jacob spoke of his intentions, his willingness to learn the ways of the daughters of the mountain, his desire to become part of something larger than himself. Morningstar was silent for a long moment after he finished. Then she turned to Yellow Bird. "You have chosen this man?" "I have, grandmother." "And you accept the responsibilities that come with this choice?" "I do," the elder nodded slowly. "Then let it be known throughout the settlement. The rancher Jacob Hollister is no longer an outsider. He is one of us, bound to Yellow Bird in the manner of our ancestors, part of our community in all things." In the weeks and months that followed, Jacob learned more than he had imagined possible. He discovered how to track game through rocky terrain, how to read the weather and the flight of birds, how to prepare hides and fashion tools from stone and bone. The women who had once viewed him with suspicion came to accept his presence, even to value his contributions. But more importantly, he learned how to open his heart again. Yellowbird taught him the ways of her people, including their songs, their stories, and their beliefs about the interconnectedness of all living things. She showed him how to find joy in simple moments, how to express grief without being consumed by it, and how to love without fear of loss. One evening, as they sat together watching the sunset paint the cliffs in shades of gold and crimson, Yellow Bird placed his hand on her stomach. "The spirits have blessed us," she said softly. Jacob felt tears spring to his eyes, tears he would once have been ashamed to shed. "Are you certain?" "I am certain." He pulled her close, overwhelmed by emotions he could barely name. 3 years ago, he had been a man waiting to die, going through the motions of existence without truly living. Now in this hidden valley among people he had once considered enemies, he had found everything he thought he had lost forever. "I love you," he whispered against her hair. "I know," she replied, "and I love you, Jacob Hollister, my rancher who wandered so far from home only to find his true home at last." The stars emerged one by one above them, the same stars that had witnessed his capture and his transformation. Somewhere out there, his old ranch sat empty, slowly returning to the desert from which it had been carved. He did not miss it. His home was here now, among the daughters of the mountain, beside the woman who had shown him how to live again. Whatever challenges the future might bring, he would face them not in isolation but as part of a community, surrounded by people who shared both labor and love. The lonely rancher was lonely no more.